think in the face of the jail time being handed out for violence on the streets of this country relatively recently, the Just Stop Oil sentences are justifiable? I think they can be shown to be justifiable. What about you? 03456060973, 7 minutes past 5. Gill Tavner is a spokesperson for Just Stop Oil. Thank you very much indeed for coming on the programme. So what is it about the sentence of those caught up in or committing the violence in the last few weeks makes the sentences for some of the people that you work with unjustifiable?
Tom, thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
Can I just ask a question? Because I'd like to start.
Sorry, Jill. I'm going to start this.
It's actually just a really quick one.
No. Sorry. I'm going to start this interview by asking you a question. If you wouldn't mind trying to answer it, and then we can get into what you'd like to say. Thank you.
Okay, that's fine. Just could you repeat it then, because I was practicing my line.
The people who were convicted of causing thuggery and violence on the streets have had lower sentences in prison than your colleagues. Why are your colleagues saying that means that their prison sentences should be lower?
I think if you look, Michael Forst of the UN has said that the day that the Whole Truth Five, we call them, the ones who just want to raise the alarm about the direction in which we're heading, were sentenced, was a dark day which should put us all on high alert on the state of civil rights and freedom in the UK. And I think, I don't think that the 5 who were imprisoned for what they did. They were imprisoned because of the interests that we as Just Stop Oil challenge. Can I just ask, did you study? I'm an English teacher. I've been an English teacher for 25 plus years. Did you study Lord of the Flies? Because I imagine a lot of your audience did when you were in for GCSE or for O-level. I think you were GCSE.
I think I was GCSE. Yes, I read Lord of the Flies, yeah.
Right, if you don't mind me traumatising some of your audience by reminding them of this, but you may remember that, on one side you had Ralph, Piggy and Simon, who kind of, in an analogy, represented good sense, science and spirituality. And on the other side, you had the irresponsible leadership of Jack, who just wanted to party and was supported by the sinister Roger. And basically, Simon, Ralph and Piggy knew that they had to confront the fear that was at the heart of everything that was going on. And Simon actually said, what else is there to do? We have to be responsible. We have to confront the fear. And he was killed as a consequence. Jack, on the other hand, wanted to perpetuate the fear because that meant having fun. And eventually they burned the whole island to a cinder.
Right.
With a couple of deaths along the way.
Yes.
So basically, the longer they avoided confronting their fears, the more easily they were controlled by irresponsible leadership. And the sort of less civilized they became and the more violent they became. And look, as a mother of 2 daughters, aged 19 and 21, I do not want my society to become less civilized and more violent, whatever the cause may be. Okay, right. Whether that's because of fascists on the streets and riots, or whether it's the entire closure of the breakdown of our climate system,
or the entire closure of the M25, which is what your colleagues conspired to do.
I don't think that was going to cause the absolute breakdown of the rule of law.
I'm not suggesting that it's going to cause the absolute breakdown of the rule of law. You're the one that brought the Lord of the Flies up. They didn't just want to raise the alarm, though, did they? They wanted to bring the entire M25 to a halt. That would have meant people, emergency services, would not have been able to get through. That could, in theory, have killed people.
Tom, in normal times, that really would have been an outrageous thing for Just Stop Oil to do.
But that's what they were planning to do, Jill. That's why they've gone to prison for a long time.
Not as outrageous, and you have to accept, and I'm sure your audience accept, it is nothing like throwing bricks at policemen, about barricading people into a hotel and setting it on fire, setting fire to a library, which is a symbolic
How long have the people who did that been sent to prison for, Jill? The people who set fire to that hotel, how long have they been sent to prison for?
To be honest, I don't know. I'm sorry, I've been working 24/7. I've got a full-time job.
It's a reasonable question to ask because you raised it. Yeah. They haven't been sentenced yet. So there is a circumstance in which people who are charged with some very serious offences, including the offence of rioting, or indeed, as we were being told by the Director for Public Prosecutions, would be charged with offences that fall under the banner of terrorist offences, they will go to prison for a lot longer than your colleagues have gone to prison.
I'm not here to argue for longer prison sentences for anyone. Just as on Lord of the Flies, a lot of the boys who commit some of the atrocities are just extremely frightened and are whipped up into a frenzy of violence. And, you've just said about this on your news about, the young girl. So that's not what I'm here to argue about. I'm here to say that we need to raise the alarm. That's what Ralph did. That's what Jack did. That's what Pig did. They said, look, we're in real breaking down our society here and no one's listening. And what else is there to do but to try to raise the alarm?
Right.
Look, no one No one wants to be causing disruption.
But
no
you
one
did.
wants to face the courts. No one wants to spend time in prison. And
No.
yet, I guess that what we felt before doing it is, what else is there to do? Because we have reached a point of real desperation here. We have to, the science demands that we stop burning oil and gas by 2030.
Fine.
Otherwise,
so Jill, you think
disruption on the M25 is just, it's going to seem
fine.
like
So
nothing. I'm not downplaying it now.
So the closure of the M25 is is nothing as compared to, and therefore justified, compared to the impending doom that we're about to face
Tom,
of Lord of the Flies.
Yeah, Tom, I don't know what's justified in this world that we're in at the moment.
Well, I'll tell you what, conspiring to close the M25.
Raise the alarm. And we just have to. We've got to get rid of this delusional belief
Yes.
that we can continue as usual without any consequence.
Jill, by your own logic of saying nothing very much matters in the face of planetary...
Everything matters. Everything matters in the face of planetary decline. Everything we love and everything we care about matters. That's why we're fighting.
So bringing the N25 to a standstill does matter.
Yeah, it matters.
Right, so that's why your colleagues have been sent to prison.
None of us want to be causing disruption, but it does not deserve a 5-year sentence or a 4-year sentence.
So what does it deserve?
And look, these rules have been brought in, as you know, by Policy Exchange, a right-wing think tank funded by the fossil fuel industry, by Exxon. Okay? Our our legal system is being bought in things like this. And these people are there for facing and challenging the fossil fuel, not for what they did. I mean, Roger was there. Every single person who takes action with Just Stop Oil has non-violent training.
Fine.
Training in taking non-violent action.
Brilliant.
It's the core of what we do and who we are.
So what consequence should have befallen your colleagues who chose to do this disruption and who conspired to bring the entire M25 to a halt? What consequence should they face?
I don't know. I'm not legal. I'm not here to mete out their sentences. I do know.
But you agree they should go to prison?
The legal minds are saying that if that had been the law in USA in 1963, Martin Luther King would not, the laws we've got at the moment stopping us from speaking the truth in court even now.
That's not true.
Martin Luther King wouldn't have made his speech. We wouldn't have civil rights.
It's just not true, Jill.
It is a clampdown on really important things.
What the judge prevented from happening in court was the apparent justification of your actions on the basis of your belief that we're heading into absolute planetary meltdown. Sorry,
I've got to stop. It's not our belief. In the face of the scientific knowledge that, please get that right, please.
The judge decided that isn't going to act as mitigation in trying to do these kinds of conspiring to commit these kinds of criminal activities.
I don't know if you know about the case very much, but he argued that if you assume you've got a responsible government, then no breaking of the law is justifiable. But just to put that in context, that was after 2022, the hottest summer we've had.
Yes.
In October, the government licensed more laws. So you could potentially argue that we didn't actually have a responsible government.
Fine.
At the time.
So which is it then?
That meeting took place 1 month later.
Well, again, I use what you say as to further the argument that there should be some consequence for what happened to your colleagues in trying to stop the M25 or not.
As I've told you, I'm not a legal mind, and we never take any action and try to escape the consequences. But I think most reasonable people out there will agree that this sentencing is, can't think of the word, but it's not proportionate, particularly when compared with the sentencing that's happening now. I think anyone with a reasonable way of looking at things would agree with that. And I think the media needs to stop trying to frame Just Stop Oil as the troublemakers. We don't want societal breakdown for any reason. And we know we cause disruption because look, at this time in history, please don't laugh, but at this time in history, it's hard to accept, but it really is on the shoulders of our global generation to face something that's never been faced before. And if we don't act, what is it? Our children will be next. Okay, and I care about my children. I'm sure you do about yours. And I don't want them look, we've just got bigger fires than ever in Greece, the hottest year ever, the hottest month. We've got failing crops in the UK, failing crops in Spain, floods washing away villages in Switzerland, fire in the States, fire and flood in Canada. And yet, we're arguing between a few months here and there on a sentence. We accept the consequences. Of course, we're going to appeal because no one wants to be in prison for doing a peaceful Zoom protest. And anyone who listens will know that that's unreasonable. Okay? But what else do we do? We've done all the reasonable things. We've done all the petitions. We've signed things. We just need to raise the alarm because the science says we have next to no time at all to make the future less bad than it's going to be. And that's what we have to try to do. And that's why we say, You have to stop oil and gas by 2030.
Okay.
And for those who say you can't do that, the Second World War was won in 5 years. People made huge sacrifices. We're not being asked to send our sons to war. We're just being asked to act responsibly, change our systems as quickly as possible and as far as possible to stop burning oil and gas. Why the fuss? Why the obstacles? And I know the answer to that. It's the vested interest and the immense power of the giant, the loud, scary giant of the fossil fuel industry. And they're not going to go down without a fight.
Okay.
Of course they're not. We've known that all along.
Thank you very
much.
Thank you very much indeed for coming on. Gill Tavner, spokesperson for Just Stop Oil.